Hello and welcome, guys. I'm going to be doing a full video on a app that I think is fantastic and a must-have for BMWs, and that is BimmerLink. Now, I did a whole video not too long ago kind of talking about the two most important apps I think if you own a BMW. That's BimmerLink and BimmerCode. And that video is more of an overview, kind of talking about what each app is capable of. And what this video is going to be about is this one's going to be specifically for BimmerLink. And I'm going to be using my 2016 BMW M2 as my kind of donor car for this example. So really this is going to be a full breakdown of what this app can do and just kind of why you should own it. So let's get into it. Let's talk about BimmerLink. So BimmerLink is a app that you can get on your iOS or on Android, and I believe you can also get it on Mac and PC if you want to run a cable to your car and do some coding and stuff that way. It's an app that allows you to read and do certain things inside your BMW. Now the price for BimmerLink is $40, so it is a bit of a hefty upfront cost. Another thing you will need 100% is some sort of Bluetooth adapter for your car for the OBD port. Now for me, the one I use is by a company called VPeak. And this is the adapter that I personally recommend just because I've used this exact adapter for 3 years. I've used it on my M240i, I've used it on my first M2, I've used it on my second M2, I've used it on a relative's BMW X3. I've used this on multiple BMWs. This is just the one I recommend. I have a link for it in the description. So once you have the app, once you have an adapter, so it's a Bluetooth adapter just like this, and you're going to plug it into the OBD port of your car. So in just about every BMW, the OBD2 port is going to be, if you take your left hand and just kind of run it down your dash, and it's probably opposite for UK viewers because you guys sit on the other side, you're going to run your fingers down, you're going to feel the kind of shape of it, you're going to feel the port down there, so you're going to plug it in. Now, your car does have to be on in order to do anything with BimmerLink. Personally, unless your car is actually plugged in, I would recommend just completely turning the car on, including the engine, just to keep the battery from draining. So in my opinion, just turn the car on completely. If you're doing this in your garage, make sure you open the garage door. Needless to say. Okay, we got some screen sharing going. So we're going to go into BimmerLink, and I'm going to hit cancel. So this is what your screen is essentially going to look like the first time you load it up. So you can go into offline mode to play around with it a little bit. First, we're going to go into the little gear at the bottom for the options. Now, this top right here, CarPlay add-on. This is a newer feature that they added, and I'm really upset I don't have this anymore because I have a 2016 M2. Unfortunately, this does not come with CarPlay, but I'll go into later, like the dashboard and how you can have it set up like on your CarPlay. Unfortunately, I can't show you that specifically in my car, but I can kind of go over why you may want it. Okay, vehicle bus, automatic connect. I would just recommend automatic connect be on unless you have multiple BMWs and multiple OBDs. Just leave it on. Startup screen, so you can have it start up to the menu or to the dashboard or any of these other things. Personally, I like to just have it go straight into the dashboard because that's what I typically look at. Default, I believe it's going to just take you straight to the menu, but it really doesn't matter. Personal preference. Ignore head units. Enable the setting for vehicle as a third-party device for CarPlay installed. Not something I currently have, but again, CarPlay thing. Sensor value. So this allows you to change things, so like kilometers per hour, miles per hour, temperature, Fahrenheit, Celsius, all these different things you can change on here. So however you want to read your data, this is where you're going to change it. Personally, I have my thing set to miles per hour because I live in the US. We use miles per hour here. Temperatures, I like to use Celsius just because I think it's easier to read, say, 100 degrees Celsius than it is to read, I don't know, 179 degrees Fahrenheit as far as car temperatures go. I just think it's easier to read, so I just do that way. Distance, miles, kilometers, again, depending on how you want to set up your units. Color scheme, orange or blue. I like blue because I have a blue M2. And that's really it. None of this other stuff down here you really need at the moment. So of course you have your basic stuff, your policies, yada yada yada. Don't need that. So we're going to hit done, and then we're going to hit connect. So next thing, you're going to have a list of adapters that the car can connect with this app. So mine is right here, the VPeak adapter. So mine's already checked off. Once you set this up the first time, if you have automatic connection, it's just going to automatically connect, so you don't have to do this every single time. We're going to hit connect, and before we do, so VPeak and the makers of BimmerLink and BimmerCode recommend that when you set up, you put your phone on airplane mode, that you turn off music, that you pretty much remove any possibility of any interference, any interruption. In my opinion, you should only really do that if you're having issues with it connecting. For the most part, I've never really had any major problems with connections, so I don't really think it's that necessary. Like, I'll literally be driving, I'll have my phone up here, and I'll be like, oh, let me read my temperature. So I'll go boom, boom, connect, and it'll just connect with no problem. So I don't think it's necessary, but just in case you do have connection problems, it is something that they state that you should put your phone on airplane mode, that you should turn off your music, just leave all interference out, and you should hold it close to the OBD adapter. Personally, again, like I said, I think that's all unnecessary. You don't really need to do all that. So let's hit connect. So when you load up, mine went to the dashboard, but let's go back to the main menu. So this is your main menu on BimmerLink. So I'm gonna go into every single one of these pretty much and what it can do and why, again, I would recommend everyone owns this app. So the first one we're gonna start with is actually the dashboard. So the dashboard is essentially your main kind of board. So this is essentially what it's going to look like on your screen, and I like to have it up here as I drive. If you have CarPlay, this dashboard right here, you can actually have it in a horizontal view, and you can actually have it up here on your iDrive. So really awesome if you have CarPlay, and I'm not 100% sure about Android Auto. I want to say it doesn't work, but I'm not 100% sure. So mine, for example, shows coolant temperature, oil temperature, transmission temperature, boost, and battery voltage. So like if you see, if I give it a slight rev, the boost changes because it's starting to draw air in, the turbo's starting to put a little bit of work, and you can see the boost changes. And then if, say, you turn your car on and it's like ice cold, you can see what your car temperature is when it's cold. You can see what the temperature is as you kind of warm up the car, kind of what your typical operating temperature is. So the dashboard is essentially where you want the main things that you're going to be looking at. And I'm going to go back to this, I'm going to circle back to this in a little bit. So let's go into sensor values. So sensor values, right now I have these ones here as an example, but if we go up here to edit, here's where you can add sensor values. So all of these are different values that you can read in the car. The vast majority of these are going to be pretty useless to you because like you're never going to need these. Like, for example, adjustment of throttle valve, automatic start condition. Like, a lot of these are, whoops, I don't want to turn that on. A lot of these things are more for diagnostics. So if you're looking to figure out a specific problem, you can measure it in here. Really fantastic to know how to do all that stuff. But again, 90% of the stuff, like right here, filtered, spark, burning time, cylinder, 1 through 6. Like, realistically, is anyone going to need this? No. Unless you're a mechanic, you're not going to need any of this stuff. So let's talk about some of the stuff that you may want. So going down the list, for example, we have battery temperature. That's something maybe you want to look at. And some of these is the perfect example. Battery temperature, and then below that, you have battery temperature from IBS. So some of these, depending on where the sensor is, they're going to give you different values. So one of the big ones is oil temperature. Oil temperature has like 3 different points in the engine that you can measure from. And there's one that's kind of like the standard one, and one that's always going to be like extra hot, one that's always going to be cold, depending on where it is in kind of the flow of oil through the engine. So just play around with that and bear in mind which sensor you're actually looking at. Boost pressure, that's a good one. So for example, these are the ones that I have added: coolant temperature, engine speed, and intake air temperature before throttle valve. My air intake temperature, 59 degrees Celsius. My coolant temperature now is 82 degrees Celsius, and my engine speed in real time right now is 600-ish RPMs. If I give it some rev, you see the RPMs instantly jump. So all of these sensor values you read in real time, and then you can hit start log if you want to log this data and then later export it for whatever research or diagnostics you need. Now let's go into dashboard. So dashboard works pretty much exactly the same way, except if you hit edit, you could change how many things you want. So I have 8. Really, I'm only using, 5 at the moment. But you can have 8 data points. And right now I have coolant temperature, oil temperature, transmission temperature, boost pressure, and battery voltage. And then I'll add whatever else. Now that it's summertime, One thing I'm going to probably add is intake air temperature, so I can kind of see what temperature the air is as it's going into the engine. So you can see how, and you can also change the order of these, so I can move like coolant temperature behind oil temperature, or however I want it. So you can see how useful this could be if, say, you're doing a track day, or if you're driving a car in the winter and you just want to make sure your car's up to temperature. All these things are extremely useful to just know. So right here, so this is another one of those cases where it talks about there being multiple sensors. So you have intake air temperature at start, intake air temperature before throttle valve measured, intake air temperature linearized and converted. I'm just going to do intake air temperature just to get a basic reading. If you really want to get nitty gritty, you can kind of research what each individual one is, but that's not the purpose of this video, and just because I don't really know what the difference is between every single one. So there you go. I added that to my dashboard, and I could add 2 more to the bottom here. I'm not going to do that, but just as an example, there you go. That's what it's going to look like. And if you have Apple CarPlay, you can have it show up on your iDrive as well. So let's exit the dashboard. Exhaust flap. This one is pretty straightforward. So if you have a valved exhaust, you can have it set to open or close. Personally, I just leave it on auto just because I like to have my car sometimes loud, sometimes I don't want it loud, so I just leave it on auto. But if you want to change your exhaust flap to one or the other, this is where you can do that. ASD, active sound design, I believe it stands for. So this is basically how the car pumps in fake sounds. So because of how it works with like the speakers, personally I would leave this one just on, and you can use BimmerCode to code it out a different way, which I think is more effective. 12 volt battery. This one incredibly useful. So if you go into 12 volt battery, what this does is it gives us information about the battery. So the type of battery at the top, how much the battery is currently charged at the moment, mileage that the battery was last replaced at, and then the mileage the battery was placed at before that. In my specific case, because I had a battery issue in my car, I tested this to see if it would fix it. So I didn't actually replace the battery at 60,000 miles. It was replaced at 57,000, but you could see how that works. So if I go to register a new battery, you would do same capacity or different, click through the buttons, and you code your battery in. So the reason it's important to be able to code your battery in is because BMWs are designed to kind of adjust how they charge them based on how old the battery is. So if you have a battery that's 7 years old, you replace it, you plug in a new battery. If you don't code that battery in, the car's going to assume that it's the same 7-year-old battery, and it's going to charge it and treat it way differently than if it was a new battery. So very important that you can code the battery into your car. Air memory. So all these errors we're going to go into in just a moment. Short circuit lock. So this is a weird one. I haven't played around with this at all, nor do I really want to. So this has to do with short circuits in the certain modules in the car. So like the front end module, the rear module. I haven't had issues with it, so I'm not going to touch it. Unfortunately, that's the one thing I'm not going to go over in BimmerLink is how the short circuit lock works, just because I'm not 100% sure. I've never needed it, nor do I know anyone who has. So let's go into the errors. So first we're going to start off with permanent errors. So permanent errors essentially are going to be, and then you're going to have all these check marks next to all the ECUs. So you can see all these ECUs in the car. Make sure every single one is checked off and hit continue up top so it reads the entire car. So permanent errors are essentially check engine lights. So if you have a check engine light in your car, this is where it's going to show up. Now it is possible for your car to have other errors that do not trip check engine lights. Let's load these up. And I don't have a check engine light on my car, so I should have no errors found on mine. And we're at 96%, 100%, no errors found. So you can see everything's green, no issues. Just what I want to see. If we back out, and again, if you had any errors, you'd be able to click into it and reset the errors. So essentially clearing your check engine light. Let's go back again, and now let's go into error memory. So error memory, and again, same thing, make sure everything is selected and hit continue. So this is the one that's going to show you all the errors in your modules and in your ECUs that don't trip check engine lights. And because this is an error memory, it'll store and log any within the last, I want to say 90 days, before then it drops them off. So in my case, it's showing 3 errors found already, and I suspect I know what these are. So if you followed my last video, my rear passenger taillight had a malfunction, which is, I'm not going to go into all the details, but essentially it trips codes because none of them worked. Yeah, so I have a bunch of stuff, 9 errors. So let's go into this. But essentially, stuff like that doesn't trip a check engine light, that will trip an actual error in the system, is all going to show up here. So this is stuff that isn't necessarily immediately critical to the car, but it's stuff you do at some point want to get checked out. And because this is a BMW specific app, it's really useful to get all the error codes. Up top here, you can click this and literally have everything kind of written out for you. And so you can email it to yourself, you can print it out, you could have a log, and just kind of have a document of what is wrong and what code is associated with it. So, central gateway module. Synchronization process. CC was not yet synchronized when the error memory lock was released. Click error details. Yeah, so clearly something here is not wrong because it shows the mileage as 10 million. So something here was just an error. Error not present currently, but stored. So that means it happened at some point recently, but it is not currently happening. Error severity. Error would not cause a warning indicator. So no check engine light. So what we can do, we could hit this little garbage up here to clear that error from the central gateway module. Error cleared. Now if we go back, that one shows no errors. So let's go to DME. So digital motor electronics, outside temperature sensor, plausibility outside temperature greater than model temperature. So I've gotten this one a couple times before, and this one can actually trigger a warning light. So essentially what this is just an error with the thermostat. So it'll read the temperature outside and it won't register it properly, and it'll just throw an error. So this can sometimes throw a check engine light. It has happened to me before. I've cleared it and it went away. It's good to sometimes read these and kind of infer what they mean and kind of test them out a little bit. And it gives you a good understanding of what's going on with your car. If you have an issue that's popping up again and again, it might be something that is worth looking into. Front end module, implausible behavior of flashing function. So not exactly sure what this exactly means, but you have the error code, so you can go on Google, type in BMW A04198 and get an idea of what that error code is and how to fix it. Now, rear electronic module. So this one is related to my tail light. So as you can see, all these are different lights. The output BL R defective, so something right side defective, R output defective. Basically the whole right side was defective and just not working. So you can see not present but stored because I had the issue fixed, so it's no longer present. This is a great way to see what specifically is going on with your car if you don't have a check engine light. So it's good to maybe every 1 or 2 months just kind of go in here if you have a BMW, just kind of see, is anything popping up? Are there any issues in the car? So then if you go up top and click this little thing, you'll see all these errors again. So you have the motor electronics one, front end module, and all the errors over here. So it gives you a nice concise paper that you can then send, print out, whatever, and have a document of what's going on with the car. All these errors shouldn't be an issue in my car anymore, so I'm going to go hit the little garbage can up top, clear errors. It's going to clear them. Just give it a moment to do that. Okay, so we have errors cleared. So now if you look, everything is green, so your car has no errors, everything is good to go. So this is probably one of the most useful features for BimmerLink. The dashboard and being able to read and clear all your errors and everything that's wrong with your car. You can see code by code what is happening. So now let's go back again. Now let's go into info memory. Now I feel like it shows 25 errors found, 31 errors found. So if you look through this, essentially what this info memory is it is a full memory of all the errors that have popped up on the car. But again, I could go here. You have a nice log. But we're going to clear everything. And again, because I've never actually gone in here and cleared this, some of this could have been from previous ownerships. So by clearing it, what it allows me to do is now drive the car. And if in, say, a week or a month, a couple of these pop up, then I can see, okay, this one I cleared and now it's popping up. Let me look into this and see what this actually is. All right, clearing failed. Not all errors could be cleared. So everything cleared except for one. integrated chassis management. SBS function, roll rate, air amplitude due to suspected error. No idea what this is, but it's present in my car. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna screenshot it and I'm gonna research this for later. No point clearing it because it's still in my car. So let's exit this for now. And then the only one left here to go over is service reset. So if I go to service reset, this is pretty much self-explanatory exactly what it says. So engine oil, brake discs, rear disc, vehicle checks, brake fluid. These are all just the main services that are going to be in the iDrive. And there is a way via the hidden menu to clear them, but this is an easier way to clear it through the app. Engine oil was just done yesterday. So due May 25 or in 10,000 whatever. So in 1 year or in 10,000 miles per BMW's guidelines. So this was literally just done yesterday, so this one's already reset. Front brakes, this one I don't really need a reset. I already did my front brakes not too long ago. Not too worried about this one at all. I didn't reset it at the time when I did replace them, so not sure how accurate that even is. Rear brakes haven't done, but my rear brakes were checked, they're fine. Vehicle check, this one's just kind of a basic overall check of the car. Really, they did that yesterday anyway by looking over all my fluids and everything. So for all intents and purposes, I can reset this now. Let's reset this. So vehicle check all set. Brake fluid was done not too long ago. And yeah, that's essentially all of the BimmerLink app. So you could imagine how incredibly useful this could be to own if you have a BMW. Especially if you have multiple BMWs in your family, if you personally own multiple BMWs, or if you plan on owning one after another, you could see how owning this is incredibly useful. So again, as I said, this video is specifically on BimmerLink, so I'm not going over BimmerCode in this video at all. That one is more specific of, I can make a video on a specific thing I code into the car. Like for example, I'm going to be doing a video on brake force display soon. BimmerLink you can use regardless of whether you want to coast stuff in your car or not. Incredibly useful to have this app. Now again, you do need the app, which is $40 on the App Store. I don't know how much it is on the Android store, but it is $40 on the App Store. And you do need a Bluetooth adapter. Once again, the one I've been using and the one I highly recommend is VPeak. So again, I will have a link in the description if that is something you want to purchase. That is pretty much a full kind of step-by-step, every detail rundown of the BimmerLink app. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did find it helpful, leave me a like, subscribe, leave me a comment if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.